Hi, in this video I'm going to show you the three most common errors that I get from students and why they will either not turn in an assignment correctly or why they see errors in their code. So the number one error I see is that when students submit their code to me, that they forget to duplicate it. They forget to duplicate it, which means if they don't duplicate it, it doesn't get saved. So if you look here, there's a bunch of, you'll see students' names are in a lot of these links that they submitted. But every time you see it where it says my name, B. Siegel, right? That's me. That means they didn't duplicate it and it didn't save into their own code. So Elsa, Sophia, great job. She copied and duplicated the code. But whoever this is, if you see when I click on it, there's nothing there, right? That's because that's just the code that I sent. They're literally sending me back the code that I provided. So you could code whatever you want, right? But if you don't duplicate and save it, it'll never get saved. Like it just never happened. So these students forgot to just go like this. File and then duplicate. And when it duplicates, then it becomes your code. So let's just go through this. You'll see that there's a lot of these. So that's like another one where like if you just click on it, it's gonna be my code. This one doesn't have their name in it. That's not any code. These three people right here all didn't, they sent me back my code, sent me back my own code. The list goes on. So a lot of people did that, and so they weren't realizing that they were actually sending nothing to me. So if you send me nothing, you don't get a good grade. Okay, now let's talk about some possible errors that I've been seeing. All right. So here's another error that I see. So let's say, okay, you finally get the lab, you duplicate it, you're feeling good. All right, but you do your first line. Let's do a good first line here. Okay, awesome. Here's my first line. Looks great. I feel good, right? And I'm going to keep coding. I'm like, okay, let me keep doing my assignment. And let me do another line. So I'm going to line 10, 60, 200, 400. So here's a crazy little line, right? Now I press play, and you look here, in this, it's telling me I have an error. The console is telling me I have an error. That means that I did something very wrong, right? That's when the computer yells at me. So if you see this error where it says uncaught reference error, line is not defined, that will happen if you are outside of the draw function. So what does it mean to be outside the draw function? So this is the draw function. It says function draw. You'll see this is the starting curly brace and this is the ending curly brace. Everything inside of those curly braces, the computer can do. It's all right, that's inside of it. But anything after this ending curly brace is outside of the draw function, right? So it can only see the things inside of it, the draw function, which is here, right? This is the start of the curly brace, end of it, here's what's inside of it. If your code is after it, then it will not run and you will break your code. So it's important to always put everything you code inside of the draw function. So to fix this problem, just give it another thing like this. Well, actually, let me show you how this is the other thing that I see people do. They delete this. They say, okay, it's not inside, let me just delete it. You can't just delete it, all right? If you do that, you press play, you get this thing called unexpected end of input, meaning you never ended the draw function, all right? So the way to fix this is to, let's just put the line over here, we'll put them right next to each other, and then we'll put them both inside of the draw function. So here's the start, here's the end, and now when I press play, everything works again. Now, one other error that I've been seeing is that some people go like this. They just like take all of the code, and to make more lines, they like copy the whole thing, like all of the code right here, the setup and the draw. And just to be clear, you can't just keep copying and pasting the setup and draw functions. You only can have one setup function and one draw function. That's it, one and one. Each time you keep copying and pasting it, you're making like you're making copies, and the computer will only recognize the last thing you do. So for example, let's say you're doing all this, right? You copy it like 7 times, and then in your first draw function, you're like, okay, let me like change something. I'm gonna like make some changes here, like that. All right, so I've changed the numbers, right? So if I change numbers, something should change over here. If you press play though, nothing changed because the computer is only looking at the last draw function. So if you want to do this correctly, you can't just copy and paste the draw and setup function over and over again. You can only have one setup and one draw, and then you draw everything inside of that one draw function. So if you want to keep doing lines, just very simply, like this is it. You just add your lines over here. All right, so here we go. That's another line, and so on and so forth. So remember, one setup, one draw, and make sure everything is inside the draw function. These are the most common student errors I see. Hopefully this helps you out. Bye. Happy to see what you can create.